Joining me now is the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison. Attorney General, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. This is a tough one because there was disorder in the streets of Minneapolis last night and surrounding areas, and the state and the police wanted to fix that. But this, I don't know what Attorney General Bill Barr is talking about. It may be that there were agitating forces. It was not organized in that fashion. So what evidence do we have that there were agitating forces here?
Ali, may I just first say that I'm so sorry you got hit with a rubber bullet. I am really sorry about that. And I'm going to look into it. Answering your question, however, look, we have seen various reports from various places that there are people who are coming from the outside, and some might even be here from Minnesota. The fact is, most people overwhelmingly are trying to bring justice to Mr. Floyd's case and drive toward meaningful systemic change. It is about Mr. Floyd's case, but it's not only about his case. And that's really what's driving most people, the overwhelming number of people, as you saw. But I wouldn't discount that there were some folks who are here for the cause of mischief. I have received those reports, but the fact is I'm not going to let them obscure the righteous, noble cause of seeking justice for Mr. Floyd.
And again, I'm not in a position to ascribe percentages because there were lots and lots of people outside, and I'm just one guy with a crew. But most of the people with whom I have spoken over the last few days were talking about justice for Mr. Floyd. They were talking about examples of poor relations between the police and individuals African-American individuals in Minneapolis. And more broadly, one doesn't have to go for a few days without seeing some example of this in the news. The idea that the law is not applied to African-Americans the same way it is to others, and the law is not applied to police who get involved in altercations with African Americans the way it is with others. How does that fundamentally change? Minneapolis has seen this for years, but the country has seen it for decades and hundreds of years.
No doubt. I think that we need to, first of all, in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, empower the chief. We have a great chief. He is a reform-minded chief. He actually had to sue the police department for racial discrimination himself before he ever became chief. He wants a better department. Unfortunately, we have a federation president who operates as sort of an alternative chief who literally undermines good order in the city of Minneapolis. And so we have to find a way to put our chief that we've selected in charge of the department. There needs to be greater accountability, more training. We need to work on officer wellness. That means officers who respond to call after call after call, we need to be able to pull them out of that cycle and say, look, you need to get right so you can go deal with the people in a highly professional manner. We need to make sure that we do get justice for victims. We cannot have a system of impunity when it comes to misconduct. So there are a range of things, and we need a lot of help to do that. The legislature has an important role. The federal government has a role. I have a role. The state does. But I hope this tragic situation gives us the energy we need to drive toward that reform that, as you say, people have been seeking for literally decades, maybe centuries.
Attorney General, let's talk about one of the things that was a catalyst for people to continue to be out last night. The charges against Derek Chauvin on Friday, there were some people hoping that would take a little bit of the energy out of the protests, or at least the most damaging parts of the protest. But what people started calling for were the arrest of the other three officers involved. What do you know about where that stands?
We're in a very preliminary stage of this. I mean, I can tell you that this investigation is absolutely ongoing, and the other officers involved are not out of the woods when it comes to this investigation. And I can also tell you that it's common to amend a complaint. That may happen. And so I just want to say that, look, when you ask people to be patient who've been denied justice for so long, it often falls on deaf ears justifiably. But I will assure people that the process is early and that everything is still in play. Last point I want to make, if you'll allow, look, you can expect the defense attorneys in this case to be highly skilled and experienced. And if you want to make sure that you get a conviction, every link in the prosecutorial chain has got to be very tight. And so we are trying to take our time to make sure that this thing is done. And when I say we, I don't mean me. The prosecutor, the county prosecutor has the case, not my office. But I will say that, just think about how the Walter Scott jury hung, how the Trayvon Martin jury acquitted. Even in the Rodney King case, the jury acquitted. These cases are tougher than you might imagine. The video is always so shocking, but when you get into a courtroom, a lot of things can happen. So preparation is key here.
Attorney General Keith Ellison, thank you for joining me this morning, sir, and thank you for your appearances on MSNBC to help us understand what is going on in Minnesota. Keith Ellison is the Attorney General of Minnesota.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.